the bottom line really is that the responses are biased by the student's conception of learning. And one of the things that NUS is trying to do is address that issue of perception of what is good learning. So to tackle that problem, they're currently developing a module for students that will help them to learn how to learn. So that they know, or they have the skill sets that will help them improve in hopefully quite dramatic ways, that will reduce the dependency on teachers and create more independent, self-regulated learners. Having spoken about technology and pedagogy and content knowledge, perhaps one of the pedagogies that has come about in recent years, or at least it's become rather popular in recent years, is that of flipped classroom. And that is something I've done a fair amount with. I've been doing flipped classroom myself for over 4 years now. And it's one of the areas where I've done a fair amount of research to determine whether it works. As I mentioned earlier, that's one of the criteria we need in order to identify whether quality teaching has been going on. So this would be, for instance, the framework that I kind of employ. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because it's not really the core of this. I mean, a flippant definition of flipped classroom is simply that rather than students doing homework at home, classwork in class, it's reversed, that the students are doing the classwork at home, i.e. listening to the lectures and doing some simple problem solving, and then doing homework in class, so doing the consolidation effort, where the students are doing far higher forms of cognitive work in class, where they have the support of peers and the instructor, which was not happening before. One of the things I know, however, is that it does lead to improved student learning. And here is 7 years worth of data from my own course. What you can see here is this is the 3 years where I was employing a traditional method. Here are the 4 years where I'm doing flipped classroom. And you can see a dramatic increase in the average student mark from the traditional up to the flip. And there's a statistically significant difference between this data with an effect size of around 0.59. This is rather encouraging. Not only is this important for me to tell fellow educators that these kind of pedagogies work, that these are evidence-based, they're research-informed pedagogies. It's also actually important to tell the students, because they kind of like to rebel against this kind of teaching style, this kind of pedagogy. They have a view of what a university education is, and it isn't flipped classroom. It is someone standing on stage and talking to students. And we need to change their mindset there. This kind of data helps that. The students are just as affected by research as academics. And they can be convinced by this kind of data. So just a few slides then to kind of summarise what I've been talking about. I want to, first of all, return to this idea of the research-teaching nexus and identify some of the strategies that can be used to strengthen that nexus. First of all, it's about bringing research into the classroom. It's about involving students in research projects. And at NUS, we have a variety of mechanisms to do that. Final year projects, university research opportunity projects. There are mini projects that are embedded within modules. There are independent study modules which we included projects as well. And then there's also a matter of broadening the model for academic scholarship, as I mentioned. And there are different ways we can do that. We can build frontier research into our lectures, because we have access as a university to that frontier knowledge. We can build research process skills into the lectures themselves, make them a far more active and engaging teaching style. We can use inductive teaching approaches rather than deductive teaching approaches. So this is where we give students the kind of examples and case studies and get them to generalise, rather than us generalising and then going down into examples. And finally, of course, providing the opportunities for active learning when and where possible. And as I've mentioned, Flipped Classroom does support that kind of approach. Some of the other things that has happened at NUS, as was mentioned, I am a fellow of the NUS Teaching Academy. This was, I think, originally designed, it didn't work out. It was originally designed about 5-6 years ago to be a kind of think tank for the university. In fact, selecting, basically the selection criteria was people who were very good at teaching, very good educators. Apparently they're not the best people to form a think tank, so it didn't work out in that way. However, the fact that fellowship is made up of about 30 to 40 people from all departments or faculties across the university does, and getting them to meet on a monthly basis and discuss teaching and learning practices, it does allow us to do things which do not occur elsewhere within the university. And the provost and senior management come to the teaching academy, ask us to study problems, and engages with us in conversations about teaching and learning which have an impact on the rest of the university. One of the ways was the revamp of the teaching educator track. That was a project that was put together by the teaching academy. Other things we've done, for instance, is we've looked at student feedback and how can we improve the quality of student feedback that they give us. And I know from conversations I had last night that is a problem in Malaysian universities just as much as it is in Singapore. How can we improve peer review? And that's actually something that's still ongoing with us. And then a couple of other things we're doing is that we are identifying some of the best teachers, and we are sort of summarising their careers and putting those up on the web for people to be inspired. And then finally, I think we've got a project also on information technology and education. What other institutions are there to help support teaching in NUS? Well, we have the Centre for Development Teaching and Learning, of which I am the Deputy Director, as well as the Centre for Information Technology. As was discussed, we do academic development in CDTL. We also provide consultations. We have an educator in residence program where we'll invite a world-renowned educator to NUS for perhaps 7 to 10 days, and they will meet with senior management, and they will give lectures, they will give workshops, and help, again, elevate teaching in NUS. We also help provide research grants for education research and software research. Another aspect is the e-portfolio, which all members of faculty have to maintain over time. And this helps members sort of pull together information from various sources. Information, for instance, about student feedback, about their research publications, but it's also a depository for personal development information, like the teaching philosophy, for the awards you've won, the publications that you've made, and so on. I think it's also important for universities to celebrate teaching. Again, that signals to the community the importance of teaching within a university. At NUS, we have a variety of we have a variety of teaching awards at the faculty level and at the university level. And the provost will be there with us to celebrate those awards. And indeed, the best lecturers, the best award winners, will be asked to give a lecture on teaching to the university. I think another way in which one needs to elevate teaching is to recognise that, okay, it's great that we've got these perhaps 50 people across the university who are recognised for excellent teaching. But at a departmental level, we also need to look at what's going on at the low end. We need to raise the bar and recognise there needs to be an absolute minimum No one should be allowed to drop below that minimum in terms of quality of teaching, and then raise that minimum over time. Okay, so some final thoughts. Let's see if some of these statements sort of resonate with you. These are kind of thoughts that, statements I've heard mentioned in the past. So just focus on your research and teaching will take care of itself. Teaching is local currency while research is global currency. The problem with these kind of ideas is that they do lead to poor scholarship ultimately, and they do lead to very much one-dimensional academics, and going against very much some of the things that we were hearing about earlier. That today we are very much expected to have a lifetime of different careers, whether they be in research, whether they be in teaching or service and leadership. And just to repeat myself, that excellence in teaching fosters excellence in research, that we do need to nurture our teaching talent, we do need to innovate teaching practice, and finally that we do need to make teaching public. I think we are all obliged as institutes of higher learning to provide the best education for our students that requires excellent teachers. Thanks very much.